thank you for joining us.
Sir, thanks for having me.
Would you like to introduce yourself and tell us your role?
Sure, I'm Steve Gibson. I work at Gearbox Software and I'm a vice president there, which means my responsibilities are kind of all over the place.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about Battleborn, which is what we're here to talk about today.
So Battleborn is really like a culmination of all the lessons that we've learned at Gearbox Software over our 16 plus years. We've created the Brothers in Arms franchise, which was kind of a genre bending thing where we did RTSs and shooters, and then we created Borderlands, and that was another genre bending thing where we took our almost your like action RPG games, the looters, and we combined that with shooters. And now we're doing Battleborn, which takes those RTS influences, those action RPG influences, and they're like fighting game influences, and it's just a giant mashup of a whole bunch of genres. And there's not really a shortcut to describe the game. Some people try to call it a hero shooter, but I think that when people get their hands on it for themselves, that's when they're really going to understand it. It was tough to summarize Brothers in Arms and Borderlands as well when we first created those things, so we're hoping we're blazing new ground again.
So when you first play it, very much gives you a Borderlands feel, which I think is really cool. But what's different in Battleborn to say something like?
Oh, well, first thing you think of is the way you play it. So Borderlands got 4 character classes to choose from, and you have a very linear story with a few side missions, and you play through co-op or single player. That's similar. Battleborn, you can do that. What's different now is that, well, there are 25 characters in Battleborn. It's been a long time making that, and the way you play through the story is actually more of a imagine how you do a TV series where you know the basic plot, you know the good guy, you know the bad guy, but the middle parts you can actually switch around how you play them. But what's actually also exciting is, say you're playing through the story, you can do a couple things differently. One, play your typical shooter game where you choose your character class and you go. I'm halfway through, man, I wish I was a different character class right here because I love that. The way Battleborn is built, the way the loot system is built, and the character progression is built, I can actually switch character classes halfway through my story, and it's okay. A lot of people play Borderlands and they only played as, say, the Siren, and they did not get a chance to play as the Gunzerker because they didn't want to feel like they took a step backwards to start over again. So we addressed that. And the second thing we did was the idea that I want to shoot each other, my friends, right? And they're nice, but they deserve to get shot sometimes. So what Battleborn does that is we created this a very robust multiplayer system with the idea of multiple player modes, and the progression that I have and the loot that I get through the story I actually can carry over back and forth between the modes. So that's what we had. This is a culmination of all the lessons we've learned with our shift stuff that you saw a little bit of Borderlands 2. This is the next level of the shift stuff that actually tracks and manages all that in Battleborn.
Okay. So obviously PvP is going to be a big thing, I think, for Battleborn.
We hope.
It's certainly a lot of fun playing it downstairs.
Yeah.
There are 3 different PvP modes that you talk about. Do you want to tell us a little bit about each?
Sure. So Capture, we wanted to have a premise that is really, really easy to just grab onto for your typical shooter players. So capture points, you've seen that for years and years, all kinds of shooters. We've done a little bit of iteration on that, but it's a very easy concept to grab a hold to. It's like, okay, I want to play mode, I just want to learn the characters, but I don't want to figure out too much more stuff, so capture is a good starting thing. Meltdown. Meltdown is the mode where you have minions, as we would call them, and you're trying to escort them to appease the robot volcano god. Sure. And that is a mode that is, it's a lot of fun for when you play the full game. You'll have a lot more interaction with the robot volcano god as he, does things, and you try to prevent the other team from appeasing the volcano god more than you do, right? Because you want to gain the god's favor. And then there is Incursion. Incursion is one of the intricate multiplayer modes where you have a lot of things that you are managing. You have these sentries that you have to worry about where you're trying to guard and defeat the other guys, and that is actually the mode that a lot of people have compared to the MOBA stuff that came up early on, right? So that's one of the multiplayer modes. So that one, there are a lot of things to really take a hold on, and that's where the character classes really shine as well because of the different types of players where you have the aggressive, defensive, complementary, and all those things. So that's the mode that a lot of people have really gotten keen interest in, because they're like, well, that's interesting to apply a shooter to that kind of game mode.
One of the things you guys are well known for is humour in the games, and certainly from what I've played today, there's quite a lot of humour in that. How do you guys go about coming up with the jokes and the various things?
Well, it's not really a process. It is a kind of a culture thing at Gearbox, really. It was born out of the idea of really Brothers in Arms, of all things. When we were building Brothers in Arms, that was a really, really authentic, military, simulation kind of thing where you were just grounded in reality, and we were really proud of how that done. It sold millions of copies. It did great for us. The thing about that franchise, though, is that there was only a little bit of room for humor, right? And so when the guys were rolling off our Brothers in Arms doing the next game, they were looking to, honestly, do the opposite of that, right? They just wanted to be as goofy as possible. Borderlands was not originally proposed to be that goofy. If you look at the very early stuff, it was fairly serious as well, but the culture of Gearbox was trying to just try the next thing, and they wanted to be different, and ended up finding, like, man, you can be as silly as you want to be in that world. So the idea was, like, that just came naturally, really, is what happened. And it was because of Brothers in Arms, of all things.
Okay. And which character do you like playing the most?
I like Benedict right now.
Okay.
He is just a dude who flies around, kind of a jerk. That's cool. And he shoots rockets. Yeah.
And again, another thing you guys are known for, certainly with Borderlands, is weapons and loot.
Yes.
So do you want to tell us a little bit about weapons and loot in Battleborn?
So the weapons are, those are really fun because we're doing so many different characters. So, 25 different guys, and they each have multiple guns and multiple iterations of the guns, and then there's skill trees on top of that to do all the craziness to their guns. But what I actually really love is the way the loot system works in Battleborn is, if you ever play your typical game with loot, and you have multiple characters, what you tend to do is you equip your character, and then you're like, I want to play this other character. And the thing that happens is like, okay, well, I need to load this character up, unload the gear from him, put it in my stash, and then load this next character up and then put it in. And we did some math, and we realized you only play one character at a time. It's fine. You don't have to unload and reload. So we figured that out, and so what I love about that is I don't ever have to manage all my different characters in inventory. I just have my one sort of list, my favorite loadouts, and then I just say I want to play this character. I don't care if I use it on the other character earlier. It's just simplified the entire process, because you play as one character at a time. Why put people through the pain of having to unload and then reload to the next one? That is just to me, feels so much more convenient. It doesn't sound sexy, but then when you start managing 25 different characters, you're like, I'm so glad that we made this change.
What would you say was the biggest challenge you guys faced creating Battleborn?
Oh, it's the character balance for sure. That is the thing. We've created these narrative-driven games for a while, right? We did both Brothers in Arms and Borderlands, so we've gotten that, doing pretty well. We worked in the PvP world. We worked on Counter-Strike. We worked on Halo. We've done a bit of that, but creating a shooter that has the idea of balance with 25 different, really dramatically different characters, that is an ongoing challenge. And that's what the closed technical tests we're doing in the next 10 days is about, just figuring that out. The shift system, we're expecting to make constant updates to that balance because, man, people are going to find different ways to play these characters that are, thousands of hours of testing probably didn't find. So, balance.
Cool. And last question, will you guys be planning on releasing any more characters later on, maybe DLC or anything like that?
We're approaching it the same way we did with Borderlands, which is the idea that we hope it does well enough to justify it. We hope people ask for it. Right now, it's not being built, but the idea of man, we hope that happens, but
I have a feeling that they're going to be asking for it.
We're crossing fingers, man. But right now, we build the game, put it out. People say they want more. Awesome. We hope so.
And when's the game out and on what formats?
February. Comes out on PlayStation 4, Xbox One, not 360, and PC.
Excellent. Thanks for your time today.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for watching. Why not subscribe to our YouTube channel by clicking on the link on the screen now?